In 1970, a doctor in Japan looked down a patient's urine sample and stopped. It was green. Not discolored, not slightly off, green. The color of oxidized copper. The color of something deeply, fundamentally wrong. And it wasn't just that patient. Across the country, people were producing green urine. Some of them had grown what looked like green hair on their tongues. And by that point, thousands of them couldn't walk, couldn't see, would never walk or see again. The cases were increasing, and it wasn't stopping. It started, as these things often do, quietly. Around 1955, physicians in Japan began noticing a pattern. Patients would come in with abdominal pain, nausea, diarrhea, ordinary enough. But then, weeks later, the same patients would return with something else entirely. Numbness spreading up from their feet, difficulty walking, vision that was narrowing, then failing. At first, it was rare. Fewer than 10 documented cases in the late 1950s. Easy to dismiss, easy to miss. Then the numbers began to climb. By the early 1960s, dozens of cases were being reported, then over 100. And they weren't random anymore, clusters. Multiple patients in the same hospital ward. Families developing identical symptoms within months. Entire neighborhoods affected. By 1964, doctors had identified 161 formal cases. By 1967, the number has passed 1,000. By 1969, over 2,000 new cases appeared in a single year. And the pattern was consistent every time. Stomach symptoms first, then the nerves, then the loss. The clustering suggested a spread, and spread suggested something moving between people. A pathogen, a new disease. By 1969, the investigation had gone in circles for years. Every test for an infectious cause came back negative. No virus, no bacteria, no environmental toxin that fit the picture. Which meant the connection wasn't where patients had been. It was what they had in common. A pharmacologist named Beppu started going through case histories in detail, not looking for exposure, looking for overlap. Every SMON patient had the same first stage, abdominal symptoms, and almost all of them had been treated for it. He compared treatments across regions, different hospitals, different doctors, same outcome. And buried in the records, the same drug kept showing up. Not once, not occasionally, almost every time. Glyoquinol. At that point, it was still just a pattern. So the question became coincidence or cause. Then came the anomaly no one could ignore. In January 1970, researchers noticed a strange green coating on patients' tongues. Dismissed at first as bacterial contamination. Then in May 1970, a team including a researcher named Igata encountered 2 SMON patients with urine that had turned the same color. Chemists Yoshioka and Tamura analyzed it. The result was specific. The pigment was glyoquinol, bound to the iron naturally present in the bloodstream, forming a new compound. When glyoquinol latches onto iron, the resulting molecule absorbs light differently than either substance alone. Think of how rust turns iron orange. The chemical bond changes the color. In this case, it turned things vivid green. And because the drug had saturated the body completely, that green was surfacing everywhere. In the urine, on the tongue, coating patients from the inside out. Which also meant the drug wasn't staying in the gut. It was being absorbed, circulating, accumulating. And that was the break, because if glyoquinol was in the bloodstream, it could reach the spinal cord, the optic nerve, the exact system SMON was destroying. Now the pattern made sense. Patients developed early symptoms. They were given glyoquinol. They improved briefly, then worsened neurologically, and were given more. On September 8, 1970, the Japanese government banned glyoquinol. Monthly cases had been running at roughly 150 by October 1. In 1971, fewer than 100 in total. By 1972, 3 cases only. In 1973, only 1 case. After that, effectively 0. Over 15 years, approximately 10,000 to 11,000 people had been blinded and paralyzed by a drug prescribed to settle their stomachs. Glycoconol wasn't supposed to do this. That's the core of it. It has been classified as a non-absorbable intestinal drug, meaning it was assumed to stay in the gut and pass through unchanged. That assumption came from earlier data that was never rigorously retested. Later measurements showed something very different. More than 70% of glycoconol could be absorbed into the bloodstream. Once there, it binds to metal ions and neurons, especially in the spinal cord and optic nerve, and relies on a tightly regulated metal balance for function. Glycoconol disrupts that balance. It strips essential metals and interferes with mitochondrial function in the nerve cells. Over time, at high doses, this leads to axonal degeneration, which is exactly what SMON is. But it still leaves the harder question: why did it take 15 years? Part of it is signal masking. The early symptoms of SMON, diarrhea, abdominal pain, are the exact symptoms glycoconol was prescribed to treat, so the drug appeared to work. The neurological damage came later, disconnected in the time from the original prescription. Part of it is the way doctors are trained to think. When patients cluster around similar symptoms, the instinct reaches outward toward a pathogen, an environmental cause, something external. The drug already sitting in the treatment plan doesn't get looked at the same way. And once the research community committed to a viral hypothesis, years of work and professional reputation organized themselves around it. Overturning it didn't just require new data, it required people to admit the framework they built their careers on was wrong. That's not a scientific problem, it's a human one. Glycoconol was used all over the world. In 1969, the worst year of the Japanese epidemic, per capita, glycoconol sales in 15 other studied countries were actually higher than in Japan. Not a single SMON epidemic followed. So the question isn't really about geography. It's about how Japan specifically pushed doses high enough and long enough to cause mass damage, when everywhere else somehow didn't. The answer starts with how doctors and patients related to each other in post-war Japan. In most of the world, a patient might push back on a prescription, ask what it's for, stop taking it if something felt wrong. That small friction creates a feedback loop. Doctors notice, patterns surface faster, problems get caught. In Japan, at this time, that feedback loop barely existed. The doctor told you what to take, you took it. You didn't ask questions, because questioning your doctor wasn't something people did. The medical authority was near total, and patients trusted it completely. Not out of stupidity, but because that was the established social norm. Your doctor knew best, full stop. The same attitude ran up to the whole system. Doctors trusted the official drug guidelines without challenging them. And those guidelines, the Japanese pharmacopoeia, had a specific annotation telling physicians they could increase the glycoconol dose depending on how bad the symptoms were. Not a cautious note, an instruction to give more. Pharmaceutical companies pushed this further, marketing directly to doctors that higher doses produced better results. So doses climbed, treatment stretched from days to weeks, weeks to months. Some patients were taking it before they were even seriously ill, as a precaution, because the doctors recommended it and they saw no reason to refuse. SMON only develops after enough of the drug has built up in the body to cross a damage threshold. Most countries never got there. People stopped early, doses stayed lower. Someone along the lines said enough. Japan crossed the threshold thousands of times over 15 years, because every part of the system pointed in the same direction and nothing pushed back. For context, the US Food and Drug Administration had already restricted glycoconol domestically for roughly a decade before Japan banned it. The concern existed, the information was available. It just never made it through a system that wasn't built to question itself. What happened with SMON didn't require malice. No cover-up, no conspiracy, no doctors who didn't care. It required something much more ordinary. A system that trusted itself completely, moving in one direction, for long enough that 10,000 people crossed a line they could never come back from. The patients who lost their sight trusted their doctors. The doctors who kept prescribing trusted the research. The researchers chasing a virus trusted their hypothesis. and their hypothesis was wrong for 15 years. SMON was eventually resolved, lawsuits settled, the drug pulled globally. The world moved on, mostly without ever knowing this had happened. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to press like and subscribe for more content like this. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, so every subscriber counts for that goal. If you think your friends enjoy this video too, also don't forget to share it with your friends. And there's also a link for my Patreon in the description, so support the channel if you can, for more videos just like this. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's video, and let me know what other Japanese mystery I should cover. Other than that, see you in the next video. Bye.